Talk shoe. Recorded live.
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you may be, across the nation or around the world. Once again, you are listening to the VMware Communities Roundtable podcast. This is podcast number 660. My name is Eric Nilsson, and with me today, I have my regular co-host, Matt Lungeth. Today is Wednesday, September 13th, 2023. Matt, how are you doing today?
Eric, I'm well. I'm getting prepared to travel up to the Boston UserCon that will be taking place next Tuesday. I'll be presenting my typical system this year, Horizon Cloud on Azure, Tales from the Field. A little worried about Hurricane Lee and what will be the remnants, I think, headed up into the Northeast. Hopefully everyone will be okay from that. But enough about my personal travel schedule, sir. How are you? How are things out there on the West Coast? And what is the color of the bay?
I'm doing great. It's wonderful September, nice time, not too rainy, not too hot, just perfect weather. Fall is starting to happen, harvest carnivals, things like that. Halloween candies showing up in the store. So California gets excited right about now. So enjoying that perfect weather. The color of the bay is just a nice solid dark green. It's not been too sunny. We've had partly clouds floating through. So good time of year, not too much wind, not too much mud. Everybody enjoying life. But we're coming back into, we're starting to get wintry, right? And we're supposed to have a wet one this year again. So we'll see how that goes. On the show today, we thought we would just talk a little bit about two subjects. One, Explore in Europe. That's coming up. Things are getting very real now, so we can talk a little bit about what to expect in Explore Europe. So it's just me and Matt today. And then I'll give you my perspective on Broadcom. Like, I've been pretty quiet about Broadcom up until now. But there has been some events now that allow us to maybe talk a little bit more about Broadcom because the purchase is well on its way. They've set the date and they have started to, talk to us about things. And so, we're not allowed to talk specifically about things, but it does give us some visibility into what my perspective of Broadcom is going to be.
Broad brushstrokes.
Broad, very, very high level broad brushstrokes. I will not give away anything that I don't know or that isn't, public information or things that I don't think I'm allowed to talk about. I won't talk about, but I think there are some positive things that are happening that excite me about the Broadcom deal. So we can talk a little bit about that. And the VMUG CE president, I guess Brad Tompkins, right? Brad met with Hawk 10 and had a meeting with Hawk 10. So it was fun to, I can't talk much about any details of that because there wasn't many details, but there was some fun conversation about a Hawk 10. So that's good. So, but before we get to the topics of Explore and Broadcom, we should do a little bit of the news, which the news is that, hey, Explore's coming, right? So Explore in Europe, for all those people in Europe that are listening, we're excited to be there, right? It's coming up, and I don't have the dates with me, Matt. I need to go get those, or maybe
November 6th through 8th, I believe. November 6th through 8th.
And the interesting thing is the 6th, I think, is a Monday. And so the community booth, I have slides of the community booth. If you were in the US,
6th through 9th. 6th through 9th.
6th through 9th. I was going to say, yeah, it should be.
Let's get my dates right before
I speak 4 days. Yeah.
6th through 9th. Yes.
So,
but as called out, we do not know as of yet. I don't know if the full schedule has been posted, if it would follow something similar to what we have seen with Vegas, where the event actually kicking off on Tuesday, or if it would be more of a formalized Monday start. If we can speak to that yet or not.
It's going to be, I think it's going to be the same layout as what we did in the US, right? Which is okay. Monday, half a day is going to, the community booth is going to be open. We're going to be running community sessions, lab sessions, hands-on labs will be open. Then I think they're going to have a party in the evening, right? The intro party. Then keynote goes on Tuesday. And then I think Thursday is up until 2 p.m. or something like that. So I think it's the exact same format as what they did in the US. And Europe has had so many people now. Europe used to be a shorter version, but now the number of people that come to Europe are
I think that back to last year, and it was a very, very busy event.
Right. And that, so I think, very similar layout, which means it's a 4-day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And I think the hands-on labs opens Monday morning, right at 8 a.m. or something early. So that if you want to come get a couple labs in, and then other things like the community areas and that start opening up at like 1 p.m. So then major components open at 1 and they're running from 1 to 4. I think they also have sessions running in general session areas 1 through 4 or 1 through 5 as well.
We always forget to call out too those that are looking to do certification tests on Monday. A great time to potentially schedule that and knock that out. Where if you're studying for a simple, VCP or an advanced certification and want to knock out that testing on site, it's there to do. So I know that we had done that for Vegas this year, possibly. So it's something to look out there to see if that's something that you could schedule for Barcelona if you would arrive on a Sunday and then have some additional time to be able to possibly go through some testing. So if that's something that you're interested in, stay tuned over there on the event page itself to see if that's a possibility for you.
Yeah. So a lot of good stuff happening. And then we'll just get into, let's talk Explore Europe. I think that we last year, if you look at what we did with Explore Europe, we kind of toned everything down because we were still coming out of COVID. We didn't know how much we were going to what kind of audience level we're going to have. And budgets were a little bit tight because of all that. And we weren't sure how much revenue there was going to be to cover the event. So we only had one theater, Matt. If you remember last year, we just had the single theater with some tables along the side. And we
were jammed in, it was a coast space, right? We probably took a 20 by 40 and then took half of that, maybe a little bit more, 2/3, 60%, and we dedicated that to the theater, and the other was like a traditional, the blogger space, if you will.
Yeah. And I like to say it was a good COVID vaccination area, right? Because, it was we were crammed in there so tight that you were just breathing everybody's, and it turns out that me and Matt did end up getting COVID together that last year. But it was very tight and we had lines, people picking up their nooks. So it was very crowded. And that was intentional because I think I only had $32,000 left in my budget for Q4 to purchase any kind of booth. And so I just said, here, get me something. We want to be there. We want to have a theater. Here's $32K or $38K. I forget the number, but get me something and we'll make do. Right. And so it was actually really fun given the budget. This year, I have no budget constraints. Right. US was booming. We exceeded the numbers.
US was a great space.
Yeah, it was
between
a great space.
the code labs and where we had two community theaters kind of let's say adjacent to one another, than the VMUG booth within that space. I think that worked out very, very well as far as the sense of community and just that also where it was at as far as traffic flow within the hub. Very easy to find.
Yeah, exactly. So in Europe this year, because we planned it out and we have a nice space in the hub again on one of the main walkways. And we have two theaters and they're at angles. When you come in the center of the booth, there's a greeting space with a desk like we always have. And then to the right will be code and to the left will be communities. And the theaters are kind of an angle away from the center so that you'll get kind of a little bit more sound isolation between the two theaters. So they both aim towards each other in the back. It's hard to describe this. But the one theater on the left starts at 7 o'clock. The seats aim to midnight. Right. And then on the right, they start at the seats aim starting at the back at for 5 o'clock and aim to midnight. So they angle at each other. And then the theater screens create a V. There's a hollow in between there, and that's where the code labs will be, behind that, behind the entryway, the code labs. And I think we have 3 tables, 24 seats for the code labs that will be behind that. And then
I will say, with those code
Yeah.
labs, if there is any interest like we saw in Vegas, those sessions will fill up quickly and will be packed. I was very, very impressed with the amount of attendance and attentiveness that we saw in all of those code sessions that were there for your sensor labs and whatnot.
Yeah.
Are you continuing that again, or
Yeah.
is it going to be a
Yeah.
similar format?
It's actually going to be the same, with 24 seats instead of 30. So we fit in there 24 seats. So we'll know that's an issue. But then also we know that it's not quite, we know that we can shorten the lab a little bit. So we should be able to get more labs, because the labs really only ran an hour. We gave it an hour and a half, but people didn't only need an hour to get through the labs. And it is Chat GPT. And the good news is there was a hackathon group that used PowerShell plugin that ChatGPT org has built. So we're going to integrate that into the lab so that at the end of the lab, you'll get to play with the PowerShell ChatGPT plugin as well. So it's a lab on how to use ChatGPT, how to get the key management set up, and how to then call ChatGPT through the API, get a JSON objects back, and then we're going to add in the ability to then do calls that use the PowerShell ChatGPT plugin. So should be a little bit better than the US lab. So we're looking forward to that. That'll be fun. And yes, they will all get sold out. They were all full. What I would say is there was always some people that didn't show up. So people that came up and wanted to do a lab, we usually had 3 or 4 seats or 5 seats open that we could plug in, because people miss their, not everybody shows up, even though they
standby list.
Yeah, so we had a standby line, and everybody that wanted to take one got to take them right in the end, because we just populated, and so that should be fun. Looking forward to that. So there was the theater area. Spring 1's going to have a booth, right? So spring 1 we had little booths. Blogger tables are going to be low boys this time, as opposed to tall boys we had at Vegas, which was a mistake. Same with the lab tables; they'll be low. They'll be regular tables as opposed to balancing on a pedestal stool. I hate that, but that happens because the event team always likes to give you tall boys. I don't know. They must be cheaper. I don't know what the deal is. They like them. So full community booth, full blogger tables over by the community area, both theaters and labs in the back, and a nice entryway at the beginning. So should be good. And we will have Julia Klaus's larger community van stickers. So we'll have some stickers to give away as always. And
if you're listening along, I'll speak on Corey's behalf here. Over on the vExpert Slack, there is a content sharing Slack channel. So if you're out there and are presenting at either a formal or community session and would like to have VMware promote that session on your behalf, post your tweet over on that content sharing channel. We'll go through, verify the tweet, and then get that out on the formal VMware socials channel as an extra round of promotion from some 68,000 followers that are out there. So questions on that, of course, reach out to either Corey or Frankie Berrigan. But if you have a session that's out there and want to promote that through the VMware community and social channels, be sure to let us know about it, and we will go through the appropriate retweeting process.
All right. I know that a couple other external events we are also trying to do, which one is the hackathon. And it looks like the hackathon will be funded as an auxiliary event. We are looking for an external not at the venue destination. And we're thinking it will be Monday from 5 until 11 p.m. And we're looking at maybe having buses so that everybody can meet up, and then we'll get bus to the venue and then do the hackathon and then get bus back. So we're looking at that. We'll see. We know that my VP has told me, yep, we're going to fund things at Explore. Go forward and make it happen, right? Like, I haven't officially got the dollars yet, but they said, yeah, things are green lighted for Explore. So that looks like it is going to happen. So the Explore, Valdemar is looking for teams. And I know in Europe, we've always had a lot of participation in the hackathon. Last one we did was 2019, where we were up on the hill doing, I think we were at the old Olympic Village in Barcelona, up on top of the hill at some nice center. Really nice, good food, and a lot of fun in a kind of custom event, right? A custom venue. And one other year we had it down in the city at like a think tank area. William Lamb and others had set up servers, and we had a cool environment and tables, and it was kind of a part of a restaurant. So we also had good food. So we're looking to do a very similar kind of thing like that, so that we're not just in a session room at the conference center. We're going to be out doing some cool projects on Monday night. So looks like that's going to be funded as well. So we're looking forward to the hackathon in Europe. And I know we usually get a good 100 or so people out in Europe doing the hackathon. So we're excited about that. The vExpert party, we're going to do something on Tuesday night. Last year, Corey, we didn't have any budget last year because, again, we don't have any budget last year.
We had the budget for the booth.
Yeah, that's right. But this year we're going to have some budget. So we're going to do something. We've put in an auxiliary event request so that we can get like a destination like we've had in the past. We're probably not going to do the whole VMUG Vanguard, VMUG, Vanguard, vExpert party like we did in Vegas. We're just going to do a vExpert party. Vanguard's going to piggyback with some Tanzu related activities that are happening throughout the week. And then I'm not sure what VMUG is going to do yet. So we're going to keep it to the couple hundred vExperts like we have traditionally done for the vExpert party. That'll probably be Tuesday night. So stay tuned on that. So everything looks good between the booth, community labs, community sessions. V Brown Bag will be there. Alistair Cook will be there. Looks like Dell might try to sponsor some of that. So thank you to Dell for that. And then we'll have the code sessions as well. I know that Brian Gaff on my team has gone through, and we're looking at all the code sessions. We have plenty. I think we're going to have 45 code sessions, some number like that, or maybe 50. And then community sessions are in the same boat. So if you have a community session you would like to present at Explore, and you don't need us to buy you a ticket, but you want to get in content calendar, vbrownbag.com is the right place to go, and you can go register yourself and get a session. I know that they are not there. There are ones available. So go look for that and get a session submitted, and I'm sure you'll get one, and you can come present at Explore in Barcelona. Both me and Matt right now are going to vBrownBag. See if it's vbrownbag.com.
It is vbrownbag.com. I am looking for what is Alistair's usual sign-up form, and I'm sure that we might be able to put that in the show notes, because I do not see that. Right.
Yeah, he puts it up on this. He puts it up on the site kind of late, so I'll go ping him and see if he's got that up.
You can always include that in the next episode, so stay tuned.
Yeah, because he's got the sign up to.
But it seems very much like a traditional event. I mean, returning back to where we have been, where we're going to have multiple stages, a much bigger community presence, multiple events where we can, between the hackathon, the vExpert event, a separate VMUG event now, it seems like, dare I use the VM world there, I'll put my dollar in my tip jar, of old. So a return to form. So great to see that this is funded and continuing along. And stay tuned as we have more news and definitive dates to share about the event in and of itself.
Yeah, that's my takeaway, and this is a good transition into what I think Broadcom's gonna do, look like, and behavior and so forth. But my assessment is that Broadcom and
Let's set the stage. Let's set the stage.
Right. Okay.
So internally, we don't have to go into the specifics of what was shared today, but we can say that there, as of 13 September, there was a company all hands event. And at that company all hands event, there was senior executives from VMware that provided us with, as global VMware employees, somewhat of an update for where the transition process is going to happen and some other generalized information. So that kind of sets the tone for some of the things that we're going to talk about and walk down that path.
Yeah, and I think there's a couple other setting points here that we could mention. So one, we've had an all hands. It was really a great all hands. I enjoyed listening to it, right? And but then also, VMUG, Brad met with Hawk 10, right? So I think there's some feedback there that like, hey, Hawk 10 really cares about the community, right? And so I can share a little bit about that. They announced the Explorer next year, right? And that's also is publicly announced, so we can talk a little bit about that. And
they announced radio, that we will be having our internal radio conference,
right?
Again,
so
which is,
yeah, so we're seeing a lot of tells now, and some of these tells are publicly announced, so we can talk a little bit about them, right? So let's talk about the Hawk 10 meeting with VMUG, and I can't say very much about that, but I can say that
we can't say that it happened, and
right.
we can infer that if it happened.
And I'm not even sure how much I'm supposed to say it happened or not, but I think it's reasonable to say that, hey, Hawk 10 is a great guy, and he has reached out to VMUG and actually met with Brad, right? And a couple things I would take away from that meeting, because I did talk to Brad a little bit about it, and is that Hawk 10 is a really smart guy, right? Like, he knows our products, right? Brad was impressed, walked away super impressed of how much Hawk 10 knew about our products. He knew everything about our products. And so Brad took away going, Hawk 10 talked about our products for 80% of the time of the meeting, right? Like, he knows a lot about our products, right? And so that was actually impressive, and Brad was impressed, right? That this guy isn't just a guy that's buying this company and doesn't know how it all fits in, and he's a hardware guy. No, he knew everything about a product and list of area, just all the products and how they worked and what they were, and and then their market penetration and things that they do well and things they don't do well. And so one of the things that I think is a takeaway that everybody has known, but I think Hawk knows this as well, is that the majority of our customers use vSphere. The majority of our customers do not use any other products, right? And what Hawk wants to see is that change, right? That we need to spend time working on, getting, a much more solid representation of all the products that are in VCF, right? Which is vSAN, NSX, and ARIA, right? Like, and then he's like, look, if you look at our, enterprise 2000 big accounts, like, we have great penetration on vSphere. That's what everybody uses. That's why they buy it, right? How many of them actually use the other ones, right? And then what's the way to use those other ones? And this was a telling comment. He goes, Explore is a great way to get everybody, excited about using these other products and learning about these other products. And so the reason I believe personally, this is my own personal, that he continues to fund Explore and has announced the next Explore, because it aligns with what he's trying to accomplish, which is he's not going to try to do Bitcoin. He's not going to be trying to do weird blockchain implementations out in the weird space of all the things you can do, right, in computer science, right? He wants to focus on our customers.
Full stack adoption.
Right, and adoption of our fantastic solutions that once you start to use them, you're like, wow, these are really great, right? So we had the city manager, the IT head of IT from Vegas come in and talk about how they're using Edge or
Beast.
VMware's Edge solutions to create their own 5G network, right? To have the city deliver services through their own private 5G secure private network, right? And he says no other vendor can do that, and that's an extension of the data center, right? And it's just interesting to hear the Hock Tan say, yeah, we have great products. We don't have to invent new products. We don't have to stay ahead of the curve. We just have to go back to our customer base and help them use what we've already built, right? So I thought that was impressive. And then what he sees the community doing, and what he was talking to Brad about, I think is how do we enable the community, right, to accomplish this, right? So, and VMware Sessions is part of that, right? Or
Well, you could naturally extrapolate out from that. And again, this is just my own personal opinion here, is sometimes the power of the community from the marketing aspect is hearing fellow consumers, if you will, or those that have gone down the full stack adoption pathway, right, of how did they overcome those challenges? What were the roadblocks that were in the way for NSX or ARIA, or edge use cases, as we had heard about in the case of Vegas, that are out there, that how not only what the end game was, but what's the business drivers, and then from the technical side, what was in the way and how did that particular customer overcome that? And a great way to tell that story is to put a platform in place, i.e. the community, to share those journeys. And hopefully he aligns with that. And it sounds like that there might be some inclination from the Broadcom senior leadership to facilitate that through what has been a tremendous asset to VMware as a whole, which is the V community.
Yeah, and that aligns with the Explorer commitment for next year, and the radio commitment for next year, and you don't see VMware going away. And I would say that that was an interesting comment that came from the all hands, right? Was that people are like, is the culture of VMware going to change, right? That's what everybody asks. Oh my gosh, Broadcom is a different company. Is the culture going to change? And one of the answers, I don't know, it was Betsy or I don't think it was Betsy. I think it was Samit or maybe Kit. I forget who said this. But he said, 90% of the people that are going to be at VMware, right, after the Broadcom acquisition,
or at Broadcom, rather.
Right. Oh, yeah. Broadcom. Yeah. 90% of the people that are going to be at Broadcom running VMware are the people that are running VMware right now. Right. So they're like, the culture might change a little bit, but I like to say, when I married my wife, there was me and then there was my wife. And if you look at the end result of who we became a merge of the cultures, right? She was Jamaican. I was from Ohio, right? Like we merged, and the people that are currently running VMware will be currently running VMware under Broadcom, right? And the culture will be slightly different because it's a new company, right? But the people themselves will still be running VMware, and therefore it will be probably very similar, right? So I thought that was also very interesting.
I think there was also a bit, and again, this is just my personal opinion here, of set your own destiny. So whereas people right now are, I think, dare I say, a little bit worried about where we're at with Epic 2 and with holding those values, that to your point, right, the composition of those, what makes Epic 2, I think, so powerful is everyone's adoption of it, right, where we really take it to heart. And just because we are moving and transitioning orgs doesn't take those values away. So I think there's a bit of a challenge out there for not only as the employees, but the community as a whole, that if we truly value Epic 2 and everything that it stands for diversity and eco-awareness and everything else that's out there for a modern tech organization, that it's then on the community and the employees to carry that forward.
Right.
The company is responsible only for so much, but then it's also on the employees themselves to hold those values that they and represent those values that they hold dear.
And honestly, I have a sign on my office. I printed out as a Forbes magazine article that said being mean was so last decade, right? Like, and I actually hung it up because I come from old school where, you know, being mean was just how you ran a development team, and I ran a development team. And so, you know, being mean was just the way you did it.
Scrum Master to heart.
Right. Like we were just mean, right? That was what you did. And then somewhere around 2005, I think, became an HR problem, right? Like you weren't, the Silicon Valley shifted, right? And so we all have become nicer and better people, and we give back to the community. Community people in general give back particularly well anyway. So I think that's just generally, if you're involved in the community, you have a propensity to actually give back to people, right? So I would say that. But I think that, you know, we will continue to be nice. The industry will continue to get nicer. I think we will be a good community like we always have been, right? And I think that's not just unique to us, but I think IBM and many other companies that I know that have community programs are that way as well. I want to flip topics for a second, Matt, and get your reaction to I think Broadcom is very smart. I think Hock Tan is very smart, right? I think he is a very smart leader. And one of the things that they announced was our Q whatever results. I guess it's the end of Q2, right? Our Q2 results.
Yes.
You know? And they said there were, you know, 3 deals over $100 million or something like that. I just don't know if I'm allowed to use the number or not, but I guess I just did. But I thought that was impressive in that I heard from the grapevine that during Explore Vegas, that executives caught Hawk in a room and asked him, "So we're worried you're going to raise prices, right?" Now, maybe somebody that wasn't as sharp would say, no, don't worry, I'm not going to raise prices, you know, don't panic, everything's going to be fine, you know, blah blah blah. Do you know what Hawk said? He said, I'm going to raise prices. Now think about it. You think, well, when I first heard that, I went, oh my god, this guy, he's brutal, right? But you know, if I go into a showroom dealer like Tesla and I go, hey Tesla, are you going to raise your prices next quarter? You know what Tesla should say? Yeah, you buy now, because if you buy now, it's going to be cheaper. Things are going to be more expensive next quarter. Buy now. Of course, that's the right answer. The right answer is, are you going to raise price? Yeah, right now, if you buy, you're going to get a deal, right? Sure enough, you know, we had a great quarter. We signed big enterprise deals. And how would you like to bet that some of those enterprise CEOs were in the audience asking, are you going to raise prices? And he says, yeah. Now, does he have to raise prices? No. Right? Smart. Good business.
Tactical.
Good business. Yeah. And there has been always an axiom in Silicon Valley. Don't sell the products that you're about ready to release. Right? Because that's a quick way to go out of business. If you go, our next version of the Mac is going to have X amount of CPU and more memory and all this kind of stuff, and you don't have it ready to sell, you freeze your current sales. You kill your current sales because everybody goes, oh, we'll just wait for the next Mac. You know, it's coming next.
Look what happened. I mean, the classic story of the Lisa, and then what happened with the Mac, or the actual Macintosh when it was released. They literally had to recall the Lisas that were out there and buy them back, and then buried them in a Utah desert.
Yeah,
because they overhyped the Mac prior to it being prepared for launch.
Yeah, that's right. And that's the lesson. And so somebody that's smart, that knows technology and knows how to run a technology company, would get up in front of and if they ask him that question, the right answer is, yeah, you better buy now. Price is probably going to go up. You should go talk to your account reps right now and buy them while they're cheap, folks. Right? You know, yeah. Next quarter, you can change your mind. Right? You can keep the prices the same. You can lower prices. You can raise prices, whatever. But at the moment, you sell what you have. So super impressed by him, right? Because I think that, you know, that that set the stage. And
What's one of the tenets there of any marketing, right? Create the sense of urgency.
Right. Yeah. Great. Yeah. That's exactly it. So, gotta say, I was super impressed by that. I'm impressed by the fact that he's doubling down on Explorer. That we're doing Explorer, we're funding Explorer. The business is good, and I think that he cares about community. He met with Brad. That's also good. I'm seeing goodness. I think that the close date of October 30th, I think we're well on the way to accomplish that. So I think that's also good, right? It's been a long time coming. So please, let's just move on and get
We've
it
been
going.
talking about this enough, right? I mean,
Yeah.
this has been a year and a half ish in flight.
Right. Yeah.
It's
And
definitely been on everyone's mind, and I think we're getting close to being able to see what the next chapter will look like, right? To turn the page.
And they've been very upfront from what they've said. They're very direct. They said it's going to close here and it's going to close here. They've been very direct on what the hurdles they have to, international hurdles they're getting through. They've been very direct on how they're going to treat employees. So
it is. I mean, this is a moving battleship or a giant, oil
moving
tanker,
train,
if you will,
whatever
right?
you call it.
I mean, this thing, we're 38,000 employees ish, or wherever that number is across, say 60, 70 countries and whatnot. And each one of those have individual roles and responsibilities and whatnot to go through and do an analysis, right? As far as integrations and systems and whatnot. And that takes a significant amount of time. It's an operation, it's a business, if you will, in and of itself, to go through that entire process and do the necessary diligence. So what we're seeing now is the run books are starting to the professional services have gone through and done some orchestration, and the run books are starting to come together. And now it's time to execute the plays.
My takeaway is, and if you're a fan of VCF, vSphere storage networking, if you're in this space, you're going to be happy, because I think they are going to double down. I think they're investing
the investments in all of that and where we're going to head with the technology, right? And that's full stack, not just core vSphere, obviously, from some of the comments that we've heard. So you're interested, you're a storage specialist and you're interested in vSphere and where we're going now with some of the announcements coming out of Explorer with vSphere Max and whatnot. You're an NSX or over there on network services or network security. And that's an area of interest for you. Obviously, that's falling within the the vSphere bucket. And then, of course, where we're at with the ARIA suite for more of the operations and day two configuration and compliance and playbooks and automation and whatnot. That, of course, is a part of that overall development. And of course, extending that out to both on premises and our hyperscaler solutions as we continue to grow that. Again, VCF being the core of all of that operation. So stay tuned. Certainly, I don't see that product suite going anywhere and being knocked down, short of some other announcements. That again, just my personal opinion. But everything that I've seen to date is, if you're a technologist, you're passionate about this space, there is certainly what looks like to be investment coming. And
the other thing
opportunities coming for you.
Yeah, another thing that's interesting that this is just speculation on my part, right? There's been no announcements or anything that I've heard internally, but that I think the AI ML space, I think Broadcom is building a strategy around that, around chips and what they're doing in this space with vendors. And then I don't think it was any mistake that we had the CEO of Broadcom on stage talking about the deal we did with them. And I think that's all going to align in a bigger strategy from Broadcom as well. So I think they're looking to make a software and hardware play when it comes to AI and ML machine capacity, right? So
we've talked about distributed computing and where we're headed with discrete computing and offloading and some of the projects that are out there for both GPUs and other let's say network heavy type processing loads. And you could absolutely see where where their particular expertise as an integrated supplier and the chip space would be key to all of that.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I'm like, it's kind of funny because I look and I go, well, I'm neutral on the whole Broadcom thing. If I end up working for Broadcom, that'd be great. If I don't work for Broadcom, that'd be great. Like whatever, life is long, and I'm happy one way or the other, right? Like, but I actually listen to where we are technology wise. I'm like, I really like VMware and Broadcom right now. Like, I'm like, yeah, I like hardware, and I like this. I like refocusing on the data center. I've always been a data center guy, right? I've just always been that way. And virtual machines and building machines and focusing on the data center and just AI and ML and the AI workloads and NVIDIA cards and all of this is just super cool. And so I think if you're listening to this and you're in the ecosystem, it's going to be fun. I think it'll actually be fun for people that don't end up getting a job or lose their job or whatever. Like, look for another job in our ecosystem, because I think it's going to actually be a fun place to be, right? And I think that VMware has momentum. So yeah, it's pretty neat.
It might be a little disruptive for a while, but it's tech.
Yeah.
That's the nature of tech. Things evolve, things change, things pivot. And we're getting soon to be one of those inflection points. So where there is change, there is often opportunity.
So here's my only wish on this whole space is that I hope Raghu doesn't retire, right? I hope Raghu stays an advisor or stays as the CEO or whatever. I don't know what he'll be, but I hope he stays inside of VMware and Broadcom, because that guy is amazing, right? That guy has always been amazing. Best strategic visionary I've seen in a while. I've worked with him since I started here 17 years ago. He's been here 20 years. So I think my 17th.
I have to say that one of the things that I don't think what we see enough of out in Raghu's public perception is how much of a technologist that he is, and how much that he has driven this organization and his multiple roles and his history with the organization and his core. You talked about Hawk's understanding of our set stack, but Raghu's is just at another level.
Just a chess player at another level. People don't understand that maybe in 2008, when I knew Raghu well and was in some of the meetings with, like, they would talk about pricing. Right. And, and the core pricing and, like the strategies, and listening to him talk strategy in the data center 4 years from now. Right. Like, he would be like, okay, so this is where the data center is going. This is the pricing. This is the value prop that people are going to need. And I was just like, wow, like this guy thinks like at a level like that I didn't even realize you could think that way, or and he was laying out the chess game 5 years from now in his head, and what pricing we needed to set today to take you on that journey to get the value prop you need to continue to buy our $10 million enterprise license deals, right? And just listening to him and knowing what he knew, I'm like, oh my God, as long as this guy still works for the company, VMware is going to do well, because he's the only guy that knows how to set this vision 10 years from now of what's actually coming down the pike and what you need, and let alone the pricing for everything. And, it's crazy, right? So, I hope he survives. I hope he stays. Like, I talked to him at Explore Europe last year, and I asked him, because we were in a meeting together, and in the VMUG leadership meeting, and he was just there. He just said some words and just did waves and then shook people's hands and chatted in the back. And I was chatting with him in the back, and I said, so what's your retirement strategy? Like, how long are you going to last? Right. Cause he's 3 or 4 years older than me, I think. Right. I'm 61 going on 62. So, at some point we will have to retire. Right. And you can retire at 62 in the United States, or you can wait till 65, or you can wait till 67. Yeah. I think the oldest is 60 is 70. I think that you can go to. So I asked him that. So, how long are you going to last, man? What's your retirement? Because he goes, I'm never retiring. No, I'm not going to retire ever. I keep working until I can't work anymore. So I'm like, all right, I'm in, man. That's.
I think that's a legitimate answer. I see someone that's so passionate in what they do, right, that they define themselves by their work. So the whole entire concept of stepping away from that, truly retiring, if you take
Right.
the word at the literal definition, just isn't part of their being, right? They
Right.
define themselves by their work, and if they're no longer working, then they're no longer themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Tony Foster, you've been pretty quiet out there. Are you still out there and around? Are we going to get a
I'm
barbecue?
still here.
We're going to get a.
Uh,
I heard you were at another state fair. I know we're coming up to the top of the hour. We got a kind of late start, but before we do that, Matt, any other things before we transition to barbecue report here that that we want to cap off on Explore or Broadcom? I think we've covered quite a bit.
I'll just say from a personal perspective, no matter what happens, the relationships that we have all built as part of this V community are not defined by an organizational structure or an organizational name. And there is a tremendous amount of value in and of that self. So whether that is Broadcom as a whole or that individual that I'm talking to out there, that's the individual listener that has joined us through all of these episodes, and that we continue along. You set your own path, and the connections that you build as part of this community are yours and yours alone, and you choose to take advantage of them. And that is not defined by an organization, one or the other.
One or the other.
Reach out, contribute, and do all the things that make this community great.
I told my team that as we come up into this next month, right? I said, we're all professionals. We all do this work as our career. And the work that we do isn't attached to any one company. I treat it like a big travel suitcase, this old, the big boxes used to travel with a trunk. I take it as like a trunk, right? Your career is like a trunk.
How Louis Vuitton got his start.
You pile in all this knowledge and all these things you do, and then you put stickers on the outside of the trunk of everywhere you've been, right? Like, I went to London, I went this, went that. Well, I look at that and I said that the stickers are like the people you've met and the companies you work for throughout your career. And, you look at this trunk of these old, circus performers or whatever that have been grizzly doing it for 50 years, and they got stickers upon stickers upon stickers of their career. I said, what's important is what you put in the trunk. The memories that you have on the outside are just memories of your life, right? But what you've learned, you put inside the trunk. It stays nice and safe, and that's who you are. The VMware stickers and the other people, those are all great memories. What you have inside is what you've done and learned, and then you will continue. You'll work at another company. We'll all work somewhere until we don't. Then the trunk is an old beat up trunk that eventually you gets willed to your children, and then they throw it in the dump, right? And that's all there is to it. And that's what I would say is the value is everything you've done, what you've learned, what you've accomplished, and then that's who you are as a career professional. That's the way I look at it. So good times. All right. With that, we will do yet another V Barbecue report. And I know we are scheduling some guests for the next couple months here as we continue out through the rest of the year. So we will continue to do podcasts, and we just didn't have a guest today, but we will get more guests as we're moving forward. We have a whole list of them that we're going to be engaging with. Tony Foster, we'll throw it to you first. You got any barbecue?
Absolutely. So here the other day, I took squash and sliced the squash long ways, brushed it with a little bit of olive oil, and then sprinkled it with now I can't think of the sauce, Worcestershire sauce, and threw it on the grill. Got my nice char marks on it, flipped it over, charred it on the other side, and took it off, and it was absolutely wonderful. Had it with some grilled chicken breast, and could not beat it.
Yeah, I do like squash myself, right? Good yellow squash just is amazing to have. I tend to get that and eggplant confused. I don't like eggplant, but I certainly love squash, and grilling squash is amazing. And Gotta love that. So I haven't been doing any barbecue myself lately. It's been about 4 weeks since we did barbecue every, when you do every week we did brisket and we did tri-tip and we did chicken and we did ribs and we did finally you eventually time out of barbecue. Like you gotta take a break. So I've been on a break for like 3 weeks now. So there you go. Squash.
Absolutely.
Gotta love it. Good yellow squash. Matt, have you put anything on the gas grill lately?
Wait a minute, hold on. You didn't this is a first. I mean, we should write this down. Episode 660. Yeah. It happened. You referred to it as a grill.
As a grill.
As a grill. Up until this point in time, it has been my outdoor oven. I'm glad to see that you're finally coming around and not acknowledging that it may.
I guess the gas creates a flame, and then the flame you could, make sure. Yeah. Do you get some hot dogs and do you put the hot dogs on your grill, Matt? Is that
honest to goodness? I think that cover hasn't been off in about 8 weeks. I haven't been around enough to even fire the thing up, but maybe
you have been all over the place. I would say.
Yeah, I have done something like 65 nights in hotels this year. So it's been amazing to get out there and see the members of the community between everything here just in Vegas. And I just was up at Boston at a customer event, obviously back here in Boston, as we just talked about at the top of the hour for the UserCon. It has been absolutely a fantastic opportunity to get see so many members of both the community and the customers and partners and whatnot throughout this past year. So for what I have been unable to be using my outdoor oven, as you say, I would much rather have the opportunity to sit and chow down with fellow members of the community.
That's a great ending. Go get some barbecue with a fellow community member. There you go. And if you can't get barbecue, then just get some grass grill stuff. Eat a hot dog. That's all.
Yep,
it's fine. All right, we're at the top of the hour. Thanks a lot, Matt, for being here. Tony Foster, as always, great shout out. Good to hear that you're still getting out to the fairs and doing some tech judging. We'll be back again next week with a guest. Until then, everybody go get some barbecue.